This is the professor, Dr. Ron Daniels. The Institute of the Black World 21st Century's Black Family Summit proudly announces the Community Cares listening line for Black first responders and essential workers. We're here and we're listening. The Community Cares listening line is a free, confidential service staffed with responsive volunteers who can provide emotional support and share information with our callers. If you're feeling anxious, afraid, distressed, burdened, or overwhelmed by a range of emotions, please call the Community Cares listening line at 877-719-1117. That's 877-719-1117.
The previous program was Justice Matters, and heard Thursdays at 6:30 p.m. right after the WBAI Evening News. It is now 7 p.m. Stay tuned for Sounds Like Work with Rebecca Miles coming up. WBAI New York, 99.5 FM and WBAI.org online.
And welcome to the show Sounds Like Work. I'm Rebecca Miles. This is a weekly program where we drill down into working life with a guest or guests to explore the work that we do, why we do it, and why it matters. The show opened there with a little bit of Ludwig van Beethoven, number 3 in E-flat major. It's called Rocchia, Italian for hero. Today's guest is Jerry Goldman, an attorney who's co-lead counsel in a series of lawsuits seeking justice for 9/11 families who are suing the Saudi government over material support for terrorists. We'll hear all about that. So what is the law? Did it start in the Garden of Eden, or with Moses on the Mount bringing down the tablets? Or was it more rudimentary, with ways to conduct business under Babylon law? And how does that square with the Magna Carta, the Bill of Rights? Is it fluid and dynamic, a working document charting the changes in secular society? And how about lawyers, the butt of many a joke? What did the lawyer name his daughter? Sue. Or this one, a man in an interrogation room says, "I'm not saying a word with my lawyer without my lawyer present." "You are the lawyer," said the cop. "Exactly. So where's my present?" replied the lawyer. These and other questions we'll try and find answers for on the show. I don't know if we can come up with any more jokes. But joining me here is Jerry Goldman, a former prosecutor in the Brooklyn DA's office, now an attorney and co-lead counsel in a series of lawsuits pertaining to the tragedy of 9/11, representing people murdered by the attack and their families who are suing the Saudi government to answer for the terrorist attack. He's a shareholder in both Anderson Kill's New York and Philadelphia offices. He's built a highly successful and varied practice serving people and closely held businesses throughout the United States. His area of practice is complex litigation, general business law, white-collar crime, and estate planning. He's been recognized as New York Metro super lawyer for general litigation since 2016 by the super lawyers. He's a member of the Federal Bar Association, the New York City Bar Association, and the National Cannabis Bar Association. He's on the board of directors for the New York University Alumni Association, Citizens Crime Commission of the Delaware Valley, Dance Parade New York City, and Costume Cultural Society. So joining us tonight for the tricks and tools about the law and lawyering, welcome to the show. And I can't hear you. I can see you, but I still can't hear you.
Now could you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, then I can repeat my bad jokes again, that I don't know any lawyer jokes, and I did not name my children Law and Suit.
So, Jerry, before we get into any sort of more jokes, but I wondered if we could talk on this day about this serious co-counsel lawsuits that you're participating in to understand what you're up against, what the difficulties are in getting to the bottom of what happened on 9/11 to find some peace for these families.
I think peace and justice for the families has been my personal goal, the goal of those on my team here, and those of my co-counsel since the day we started the litigations. I was and am the new kid on the block. Some people filed suit in 2002. I didn't get involved until 2004, 17 and a half, almost 18 years ago. I believe then we were going to fight for justice, and we would and will prevail. I believe that more today. I think the issue of prevail is a tough word. I can't bring back mommies and daddies and husbands and kids and brothers and sisters. That I can't do. The court system can't do that. But if I get a recognition of what happened and a recognition of responsibility and some sort of economic justice, that's what I could do.
Right. So where are these cases since, you know, this is the 20th memorial to the terror attacks. I understand that the families had told President Biden that they didn't want him to attend the services on Saturday unless he did something about releasing some classified materials pertaining to Saudi Arabia's possible complicity with these hijackers. And the Biden administration has said that they would do that. Where are we now, as considering it's Thursday?
We've had one administration after another since 9/11 stonewall the families, refuse to help them, drag out the litigation, refuse to provide the types of information that a litigant in an American court system is entitled to. I think the Biden administration is changing that policy. I think the words in that executive order are not just a breath of fresh air, but a nice wind. The words in the statement accompanying the executive order, I think, are equally significant. I think the executive order has benchmarks, points in time when there are deliverables, and the test will be, are those benchmarks met? One of those benchmarks is by Saturday. Will we get the results of an investigation that the government now concedes was closed? I believe it was closed a lot sooner than May of 2020. We're supposed to get those documents by Saturday. Let's see. If he does deliver it, that's great.
And if he doesn't, what's the next step?
He gets to be held accountable. I think he's going to deliver. And, you know, I believe he's going to deliver them. We'll see.
And one of the difficulties is that up to this point, because of the many of the documents were classified, even though you're the lawyer for the families, you couldn't tell them what was in the documents, the ones that have been released.
There's been some misconception there. There are a couple of challenges. Classification was a challenge. There are certain documents that the prior administration put a blanket claim of state secrets on.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what those documents say, but I can't believe that they're secrets from 20, 21, 22, or 23 or more years ago. We asked for documents from pre-2001 activities. That's a long time ago. But let's assume that's the case. Those are being reviewed with a standard that diplomatic niceties aren't a concern and embarrassment isn't a concern. That's one set of documents. We haven't seen those.
Yeah.
The lawyers haven't seen those. There is another set of documents which were kept confidential to the lawyers only, principally and primarily because of issues relating to an ongoing criminal case, which the government conceded ended last May. Well, that ground for keeping those secret has gone. There are other documents that were gathered by the federal government pursuant to grand jury subpoenas, and grand juries are supposed to be secret, so they gave it to us with the condition that we hold it tight. There was a filing by the government today. I'm optimistic that we'll be able to get those documents made public. But there were also a lot of documents, and there were some other documents that were kept confidential because of privacy concerns. I'll litigate those in court if I have to. I'm not worried about privacy concerns. I'm not worried about privacy concerns with close to 3,000 murders. No, I'm not worried about privacy concerns. What was equally challenging and remains equally challenging and is supposed to be addressed by the executive order is that the government limited the boxes that it would look in. Typically, if I sue you or you sue somebody else, the party is supposed to look in all reasonably relevant locations. I open up this file cabinet, this file cabinet, this file cabinet. I can say, I'm just looking in the top file cabinet, but I'm not looking in the two bottom file cabinets. You can say that if it's unduly burdensome. And that's a weight, right? If I'm suing somebody over $50, you shouldn't have to look through 1 million documents. But if I'm dealing with 3,000 murders and tens of thousands of people who suffered inhalation injuries, and billions of dollars worth of property damage, and the pain and suffering that each and every one of those family members have gone through and continues to go through and will go through for the rest of their lives. Don't tell me unduly burdensome. Don't tell me that. And my government should not tell me that, in my opinion. I think that's going to be addressed. And I think those other file cabinets, metaphorically speaking, will be looked at.
And with the families part, have you found that, so they've had to live with no movement on these lawsuits, or frustrated movement on these lawsuits, lots of promises. Are you finding that the families are still staying with it? It's become now a part of their lives, these lawsuits. I just wonder how they can keep putting up with it.
They lost a loved one. They will put up with it forever. They are entitled to justice. Some are skeptical, are we going to get it? Many are cautiously optimistic, like I am.
Yeah.
Some cried to me. I spoke to some, and they were crying to me when they heard about what's going on. And they go, "Do you believe it?" I go, "It looks good. Let's see what happens."
Yeah.
One other, they've gone through a lot. They went through a lot, and they're all still damaged. They're all still damaged.
Have you handled a similar cases like this with the numbers of murders, the numbers of families, this kind of level of complexity before?
I don't think anybody has.
Yeah.
Where else do you get 2,977 murders, within a matter of a couple of hours, and then all the injuries and what have you, and those other consequences?
Yes.
No.
Except in wars. Yeah.
Except in wars.
Yeah.
Except in wars. And there have been instances in wars with this many people, civilians, non-combatants, died at one time. Usually it's combatants. But they went to work and a plane hit them and they burned to death. They died horrifically when they went to work. No, this is exceptional.
Yeah. I think we'll take a musical break now. And if callers have any questions for Jerry Goldman, the number to call is 212-209-2877. That number again is 212-209-2877. Hello and welcome back to Sounds Like Work. I'm talking to Jerry Goldman, a former prosecutor with the Brooklyn DA's office, now an attorney and co-lead counsel in a series of lawsuits pertaining to the tragedy of 9/11, representing people murdered by the attacks and their families, suing the Saudi government to answer for the terrorist attack for material support. I'm the host of the show, Rebecca Miles. I believe we have one caller at the moment. Hello, you're welcome. Welcome to the show. You're on air.
Hi, Rebecca. It's Russell.
Oh, hi, Russell. How are you?
Hi, Rebecca. Nice to talk to you again. I'd like to ask Jerry. He referred to non-combatants being injured and killed. I mean, he does know that that's our stock and trade, is killing non-combatants all over the world. But I'd like to ask Jerry, what kind of defense would the Saudi government use? Would they say that our country was occupied, our holy land was occupied, and the United States wouldn't leave? I think we're not going to come to terms with this event in September 11th until we realize what we did to bring this on, and the fact that the building was demolished out of good intentions because we didn't want it to topple over like 93, and unfortunately 343 firemen lost their lives because of good intentions. So I'd like to ask you again, Jerry, what kind of defense, because I'm sure you're a great lawyer, would the Saudi government use against the claims of these Americans who don't want to realize that it's our own government that made victims out of them? Thank you.
Thanks, Russell. Jerry, would you like to have a
Not
start?
work. Do I want to comment? I don't comment to rubbish. Next.
I think that's all the calls we've got for the moment. So if we could switch now to just a more general discussion about the work you do as a lawyer, an attorney. How long is the training to get qualified to become a lawyer?
I think I'll be qualified soon. No, I'm serious. I think if you want to do your craft, I don't care if you're a butcher, a lawyer, a journalist, you always want to get better at it. I always think of, I could have written that better, I could have said that better, my shirt could have been less wrinkled, whatever it is, you could always be better. And I think if you want to do it right, you're always learning, okay? And you learn sometimes from reflection. You learn sometimes from somebody else's comments. You learn from taking continuing education classes. You learn from teaching other attorneys who work with you. You learn from teaching classes and whatever. So you're always learning. It's always a process. I think in some fundamental respects, I'm better today than I was a year ago. I think the way the legal system has morphed over the years, certain skill sets of mine may have been better prior lives, previously, other whatever, although I suspect they would come back very quickly. I think we're always learning.
Right. What do you mean then about other skill sets that are not perhaps as used as much today? What are you referring to?
Trials, the day-to-day trying cases. The judicial system used to try a lot more cases than occurs today. I mean, it's part where I am in a large mega case. I've been devoted to this, and the number of opportunities I've had to engage elsewhere has been reduced.
Yes.
But the system, pre-pandemic, let's not even talk about pandemic, pre-pandemic, less cases went to trial in 2019 than 20 or 30 years earlier. Part of it is the legal system. Part of it is the volume of cases in the system.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate. And parts of it are like wrinkles within the system. The draconian consequences of a criminal conviction forced a lot more people to plea than take a case to trial. So those things. So I've tried less cases.
Yes. Yes.
I think it would come back very quickly. I also think, though, I speak better now. So who knows?
So obviously you work with a team of people, but oftentimes if you're getting to argue a case in the court, then you become the single, the working alone in some respects, or maybe it's never like that. Is it one or the other or not?
I'll give the lawyer answer. It depends. But if you're talking about trying a case, there always is a point of a spear.
Yes.
There always is, as your last song pointed out, a street fighting man or woman. And yeah, teams are extremely important.
Yeah.
Going out front is extremely important too.
Yes. You did say that you, in the course of your work, you are always acquiring additional skills and learning. Do you also consult with other lawyers about, things trends they're seeing in jurisprudence in the criminal justice system in the courts? Do you do a lot of conversations with other lawyers?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, there's a big firm with offices in a number of cities with different practice areas. So I talk to them about what they do. Intellectual curiosity. I read the legal trade press, for lack of a better word. Yeah. Just intellectually interesting. Yeah.
Yes. Is there a special tool that you use in your work, and can you describe it?
It's old-fashioned. Pen. I mean, I type blah, 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 blah. We live on emails, in a couple of years they're going to get implanted, so you don't even have to type with your fingers. But, so there's that constantly with legal research that used to be pain in the can't say on the radio, and now you can do it like that. But I still like my pen.
Is it a special
I really
pen?
like. It's a group of special pens. I have horrendous handwriting. If my assistant is listening in, she would be laughing. But I have horrendous handwriting. Part of it is I have an eye issue, so lousy eye-hand coordination, whatever. I also move very quickly. So over the years, I can see that my handwriting is deteriorated, that at times I can't read it. One of my partners, I walked into his office, he was a new partner at the time, and he was busy writing with an old school fountain pen. I go, what's the story there? And he goes, it helps your handwriting. What? Explain. And he goes, you can't write as quickly with a fountain pen as with a ballpoint pen. I go, you kidding me? He goes, no, you can. Let me try. So I took the pen, I go, you know what? He's right. So I'm busy writing and I needed diversion. So I used thing that you use with the computer, and you can order things, and they send it to you the next morning without giving you a commercial laugh. And I got this pen, not this particular pen. He's right. I'm bored. I need a diversion. I'm going to buy another one. I'm bored. I need another diversion. Okay. So yeah, I probably got a little obsessive with the number that I got. Okay. And I got a little obsessive with the number of bottles of ink that I got. Okay. I'm colorblind, so I have a lot of shades of blue. Like I have like one red and no green or anything, and I enjoy writing with it.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that tool. So, when I came here, so I wouldn't be dumb and forget your name, I wrote the word Rebecca, and I wrote one or two words on the piece of paper, and on another piece of paper, I wrote down the dial and stuff. But I used my pen. I actually, in case I ran out of ink, I brought two of them.
So did you want to be a lawyer when you were a child?
If I was in Texas, it would have been prenatal. I made that decision myself. No. Well, it's BAI, so I don't want to be a capitalist thug. No. I had no desire to be a business person or any of that stuff. I don't live in England, and there's a hereditary thing, so I couldn't be king or emperor or anything like that. The color blindness thing probably takes me out of like clothing design or art. While I am, rather tall and muscular and could be a professional athlete, the getting hurt thing got in the way. So the law thing sounded kind of interesting. And on a serious note, you could do good with it.
Yeah.
You could do good with it. You could do bad with it, and you could do good with it. I want to do good with it. And I've been fortunate that I've been able to at least try to do good with it and try to get the right thing and try to help people. And I've been doing it for a couple of years now. I'm a lot younger than I was.
I understand you just celebrated a birthday, a significant one this week.
Yeah, 21.
Yeah. Congratulations. Is there a case that you're particularly proud of the outcome and what you were able to do?
There's a lot of them.
There's
a lot of them. There's a lot I can't even talk about.
Yes.
There's a lot that it's bad, but I forgot. But that's okay too. Yeah. There's a couple of ones in recent years that I've been happy with. For a while, I was taking a series of court-appointed criminal cases. You weren't really getting paid on them, but you're helping people. The war on drugs were just incarcerating people by the truckload.
Yeah.
And the sentences were just crazy.
Yeah.
Did the clients do something morally wrong? At times, yes. At times, no. But even if you agreed that it was morally wrong, lifetime sentences or 10-year sentences or 30-year sentences were just ridiculous. And I had one case where a guy got himself jammed up, but it was nothing like what he was accused of. Different universe. And it made no sense. And a little birdie whispered in my ear that the cops were dirty. And there are dirty cops. And convinced in my soul that the cops were dirty. And that didn't impact the trial judge and didn't impact the jury. And successive appeals for 20 years took place. And challenges and an attempt at a presidential pardon and all these things. The law got changed a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
We did some maneuvering. And he's out.
Right.
He's out. And maybe 15 years of his life more he would have been in.
Yeah.
But he's out. And his daughter was grown up. And he met his grandson. And I had promised him that I was going to take him out to dinner at a fancy steak restaurant when I got him out. And whatever number, 15, 18, whatever that number of years was, we went to the Palm. And he brought his grandson, and he brought his daughter, and he has a job, and he still has a job. And we speak every couple of months, every month.
Great.
And so that I'm proud of. I'm proud of some work I did on a pro bono basis to help get the cabaret law substantially repealed in New York. I'm really proud of that.
You can tell us about that. That's still ongoing. There's a discussion underway at City Hall about lifting zoning laws that have restricted where people can actually dance. Can you tell us more about that?
I guess it was about 1926. The city passed a series of ordinances to restrict jazz and restrict dancing. They were combined. What was going on in the country, the wave of morality, the wave of, heavy-duty racism, the concept of black and white people dancing up in Harlem was like scaring folks. So they passed these laws. And the jazz restrictions, I don't remember exactly when those were lifted, perhaps the early 1950s or so. But the cabaret law about dance remained, that 3 or more people could not dance in public without a license. And there were some cases that went up that talked about certain performing dance was constitutional, which allowed strippers to dance. But you and I couldn't dance with one other person in a bar. And that was crazy. And different regimes, government regimes, would use it to harass and squash gay people, black people, Latino people, artisty types, loft parties, warehouse parties, dancing up in Washington Heights or what have you. And a bunch of us tried fighting it. I guess it was around 2000, maybe a couple of years later. There was a lawsuit that was not successful. We did some interesting street theater, a hokey pokey around City Hall and such. But we lost in court, and we founded the Dance Parade to celebrate dance in New York. And for 15 years, we've had a parade, albeit electronic for the last 2 years, but we will be back on the streets. We will survive and we will thrive. And because dance is part of all of us, okay? I don't care, black, white, young, old, blue, straight, gay, New York, New Jersey, Africa, it's all the same, okay? We're human beings. We have a need to dance. And a young attorney who owned a bar, Muchmore's up in Williamsburg, filed suit to challenge the constitutionality. And the executive director of the dance parade, I was on the board then and now the chair of the board, came to me and go, do you think you can get Anderson Kill to lend a hand? So I spoke to my partners, and we're really good at pro bono work. And we put a team on to help them. And the clients that I represented were electronic music DJs. I think all of them, by and large. They did ecstatic dance, the Five Rhythms movement. They did Brooklyn House with the great Ali Coleman. We did hippie feel good dance. We did all these, all the great stuff. Okay, great music people. And the judge said, you guys have a case. There is a First Amendment right, if you can prove it, and there may also be a discrimination claim. At that point, we teamed up with some great community activists and organizers, and we met Raphael Espinal, who was then a city councilman from North Brooklyn, and he invited us to a hearing at City Hall, which I think was talking about like the night mayor and that type of stuff. And we flooded City Hall. We packed every seat on the floor. There were people standing. There were people waiting to get in. The gallery. It was breathtaking. This City Hall on a little council hearing, and the room was packed. And we had one person after another get to talk. I got to talk. And people listened. Whoa. And the city then said, whoa. And the mayor did the right thing. The mayor did the right thing. And everybody agreed to repeal. On paper, about 85% of the law, practically in theory 100% of the law, because it wasn't enforced. And that was a great fanfare in 17. I was on one of your co-hosts shows on BAI tonight, on this night on September 17th, with Greg Miller from the Dance Parade, talking about it. And when the law was signed, we vowed to ourselves, we're not forgetting the other 15%, because the zoning restrictions can be problematic. It can be problematic if there's an insurance claim and somebody claims it's an illegal use. It could be problematic if somebody needs a C of O for a sale or for financing. It could be problematic because some local cop who's bad could use it to hassle somebody and shake them down and close them up. It could hassle somebody with their liquor license, or what's going to happen in a year with a cannabis consumption lounge license.
Jerry,
we're
just going to just to have a bit of a musical interlude and open up the phone line, see if anybody wants to talk to you about that, and also to just continue with where the zone fighting is going to go. This next track, just let me introduce it, is Box of Rain by the Grateful Dead. I'd asked Jerry if there was two pieces of music, one that got him going, which of course is what we heard earlier before with the Rolling Stones, and this second track, the Rolling Stones was Street Fighter, and this second track is Box of Rain, and he told me that it was a tune that he danced to at his eldest daughter's wedding, and it makes him, it's a soulful piece for him. So if we could just hear that track. And then if there are any callers, the number to call is 212-209-2877, 212-209-2877. We'll be back after this track. And that was the Grateful Dead, Box of Rain. God, that's got some great lines in. Walk into splintered sunlight, inch your way through dead dreams to another land. God, that really takes you somewhere. So welcome back to, we've just got about 10 more minutes before we have to wrap up today. If you're listening, it's the Sounds Like Work show. I'm Rebecca Miles, and we're talking to Jerry Goldman. We were just talking about the cabaret laws, which were mostly repealed for about 85%. But I do understand that we have one caller already. Hello, caller, you're on air. I don't know if you've got a question about the cabaret laws or wanted to ask something about Jerry's work with 9/11 families.
Thank you so much, Ms. Miles, for taking my calls. And I want to thank Mr. Goldman for his work on the cabaret laws, because my nephew is a jazz drummer, and I remember back in the 70s, down in the village, it was like really tense. If, I wasn't around as an adult when you had to have the cards and all that stuff, but you made it a lot easier for a lot of people to do their healing work. However, I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
Right. Okay. Mr. Goldman, do you see a way that people who are against taking the current medicine that they want to prescribe as a class action, if they produce proof that people are currently being cured from the disease through medical methods?
That's not anything that's within the realm of my knowledge. And I'm honest enough to say if I don't know, my answer is I don't know.
Thank you, caller. I think we have time for one more. Hello, caller, you're on air. Hello, caller, you're on air.
Hi, I'm just wondering, you probably already mentioned this, but what is your guest's name, and will there be a premium that will hear a recording of this interview today that you're having?
Well, the guest is Jerry Goldman, and the show would be available on the archives.
Okay, so it's nothing that we would be able to, you're not doing a fundraiser, is that correct? We wouldn't be able to buy a premium of this and have a copy?
No, unless I do a compilation of Sounds Like Work, which is a possibility. It's a new show, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, very, thank you so much, very fascinating.
So check the archives, because you can download it from the archives. If you go to the website, www.wbai.org.
I understand.
Yeah.
Thank you. I was calling about, giving it as gifts to other people, because, so many just aren't going to do that. But thank you. I understand.
Oh, okay. Thank you, caller. That's it. I don't think we have any more. Jerry, if we could, we haven't got much time. We've got about 6 more minutes left before we have to wrap up tonight. But so this current fight over zoning, when we were talking prior to this interview, you were mentioning this, why needing to change the zoning laws are important because of, where are the cannabis counters going to go, where are the lounges going to go, and also, are we going to be able to dance where we can smoke and all of this kind of thing? So if perhaps you could explain what some of the complexities are of this next stage.
Sure. I mean, there are levels of complexity that is city, there's levels of complexity that is state and what have you. There's legislation presently pending before the council that was introduced. The Honorable Eric Adams has lent his support for it. I think that's awesome news. Councilman Levine, who chairs health, and if he's elected, will be the borough president of Manhattan, is back there. So I think there's a good chance of success, because don't want the risk of a mayor 4 years, 10 years, 8 years from now, or a local enforcement agent, be it police or buildings department or what have you, to shut, or community board, to shut something down that should be there just because of this quirk in the zoning law. And I think was a good chance we're going to get this through with that great support. And I think we're going to have to do some community work to keep the momentum going. And I think it's important.
So,
I think I got your question.
Yeah. So, but currently, the law as it stands means that oftentimes dance clubs are in sort of commercial districts or warehouse districts. They can't be in East Village, say.
Right. Again, what I know, and what I don't know, I don't know. I'm not an expert on zoning, but there are zoning restrictions that restrict the location where you can get a dance location. And it's very restrictive. And if we want to be able to go to a bar and dance today, we don't want them hassled. If we want to open up a cannabis consumption lounge, when that goes through, across the street from a New York City housing project where people are not allowed to smoke indoors. So the concept of decriminalization doesn't work, because if you get caught smoking a joint in your apartment in a project, you can get evicted and become homeless. So we want consumption lounges in proximity to housing projects. The zoning laws won't allow it. So we want those changes so that it is fair to everybody. Simple as that.
So
it's not 1926.
It certainly isn't, although sometimes I don't know.
And we want it done before 2026.
So thank you for listening, everybody, for logging on. And thank you to my guest, Jerry Goldman, an attorney and co-lead counsel in a series of lawsuits seeking justice for 9/11 families who are suing the Saudi government over material support of terrorists, but is also doing this lovely grassroots, important supportive legislation that might see an overturning of the rest of the cabaret laws that restrict dancing in the city. I should fully declare that I work with the dance parade team. It's just one of the most fun events every year. And thank goodness we're going to be on the street this coming year in 2022. I hope. Thank you very much, Jerry. Thanks to also go to my engineer. Thanks also go to my engineer, Reggie Johnson. I'm grateful to all the assistance and support from Janet Coleman, Michael Johnson, Sybil Lyons, and Desi K. Robinson. So come back for more at 7 p.m. next Thursday. This is Rebecca Miles. Good evening.